Welcome everybody, this is Brothermutant here. Today we're going to talk about a build that I found online thanks to another YouTuber named RangerTony. And I'll put a link to his video in the description down below. Thank you again, Tony, for putting this together. This is actually an amazing build. Let's actually get to it first so you can see what we've done here. He has made an archer-based build off of a level 20 fighter. So this was not dipping into Ranger, this wasn't going rogue, this wasn't being anything else other than a straight up fighter that just wanted to specialize in bows. So let's actually look at the build. So this is basically what he's done. I have changed, taken the liberty to change a few things around, only at the end of it because those were feats that he didn't think were necessary anyway. And I'm not even sold on the ones that I picked, but let's actually just walk you through a little bit of what we've done. He has, at the very first level, grab things like point blank shot, precise shot, obvious picks, to make sure that his character is capable of taking a shot without being penalized in melee combat. You know, if your teammate's fighting somebody at the very beginning of the game and you're shooting into a crowd, basically trying to avoid your friends, you take a penalty unless you have precise shot. Point blank shot obviously necessary to get precise shot, with that one special caveat that if you want Paladin and the Ranger Paladin, the Divine Hunter, I believe they call him, they get precise shot free at level 1, which is a really nice little increase. Now, why does he get 2 feats when he went half orc? Well, it's because he's a fighter, and as a fighter, you do start out with 2 feats. If you were a human fighter, you would actually have 3 feats, which is a really nice increase, I think. He decided not to do that, decided, what the hell, I'm always playing humans, let's play something different. I'm not going to argue it. These are the stats he had, 16 for strength, 20 for dex at the start, 8 for con, just to get his dex up as high as he wanted, and then normal 10s for the mental stats. And again, good spread. I would have maybe changed things around a little bit. I would have maybe gone dex 19 and try to get strength to 18, and we'll talk about that when we actually get into my spreadsheet. You'll notice that as we level up, now we get a ridiculous amount of damage added to each shot. As you can see here, I'm getting 24 more damage added to the 1d8 of the bow shot because it's a composite bow. So that is because of strength, as well as a bunch of other feats that we have active right now, like Deadly Aim being a fine example. He did not like, at the very end, he did not like that he took Vital Strike, which was not the best possible choice. He wanted to try Vital Strike and Greater Vital Strike to see if it was worth even picking on this build. Turns out, according to his data, the Vital Strike and Greater Vital Strike was doing less damage than if he just straight up attacked him multiple times with a damn bow, which I'm probably going to agree with. So that's probably a thing. We noticed we went weapon trainings. As a fighter, you get this as you level up. I went weapon training bow every chance it could, and then of course we got like extra ones as well. So I just slapped it in random shit because we're never going to touch these weapons at all. Once you get to level 10, you get point blank master if you do this build the way we've done it. And at that point, you can go toe-to-toe with people right up in your grill. And as long as you're using a longbow or a composite longbow, you do not provoke attacks of opportunity. Very nice feat to have. You got to work your way to it. But this really allows him to basically be a melee-based fighter with a ranged-based weapon. It's kind of cool. The things that I changed at the end, because he picked Critical Mastery, and this is just a mistake that he had made, even just misunderstanding what it was doing. He assumed that Critical Mastery allowed you to do the Blinding Critical as well as Improved Critical, which is an inherent ability that you basically give your bow. Now basically what this does is it basically increases your threat range, which you can see here. So a bow normally does a multiple of 3, it's at 4, you'll see that that's for a reason for that here in a minute. And normally it does a natural crit on a 20, not a 19 and 20. So the 19 and 20 is coming from this improved critical feat. I mean, I probably would have taken this probably sooner if I could squeeze it in, if I didn't think that I needed like penetrating strikes quite so early or something like cluster shots or whatever. Critical focus would be another thing that I would drop, perhaps. But again, everyone's going to be a little different. The reason for the multiple of 4 here instead of 3 is because of once you get to level 20, you always confirm a critical threat, which means that if you crit, which is on a 19 or 20 in this build, then it's going to hit as a crit. So remember, for those of you that don't know, when you crit, it doesn't mean you're actually going to get critical damage. You have to hit the 19 or 20 or whatever your critical threat range is, and then you roll again based on your attack bonus to see if you would have hit the target naturally. And then if you do, you crit and the multiplier takes effect. Normally it's times 3. Because we have weapon mastery longbow, it actually is increased to a times 4, which is really nice. Now, it's not something you're going to get to in the game probably anytime soon because it's level 20, but it's there. Another neat feature of Fighter, which is one of the reasons why I'm fairly certain he likes this build, is you get armor training. As you can see here, as you level up, for the first 4 picks of this, which is level 3, 7, 11, and 15, you just naturally get this. Your armor that you're wearing usually has a dexterity bonus maximum. What that means is, let's take plate mail as a fine example. It has a maximum of +1 to your dexterity can be applied while wearing that plate mail. So I have a +7. Well, you would think that would add to my armor class. It does not, because if I was wearing plate mail, it would only be giving me a +1. What this does is it gives you a point back for each of those levels. At level 3, 7, 11, and 15, you get another +1 back. So for plate mail, after everything's said and done, instead of it being a +1 that I get back, I can get +5 of my dexterity. Now, yes, that's falling short of the +7 that I have, but I guess, but it's obvious that a +5 is better than a +1. So again, your armor is going to look really impressive because of this, in ways that I can't get in another build unless I use perhaps magic. Right? So extremely useful. Also, a neat little trick too is at the very end, which is I want to say at 19, you get armor mastery. This basically allows you, as long as you're wearing any kind of armor, and I do mean any kind, or using any kind of shield, which we cannot do sadly because we're using a bow, which requires both hands, you get damage reduction 5 that's penetrated by nothing. I mean, it's not that it can't be penetrated, excuse me, rephrase. DR5 that basically, it doesn't matter if it's a magic weapon that's hitting you, it's adamantine or silver or anything like that, it's still going to reduce it by 5. There's ways to penetrate through this, so it's one of the things that we have, like Penetrating Strike, which ignores 5 points of damage reduction. So that would ignore this, I would assume, as well. And again, it's only at level 19. We'll probably never even really see it in this game. But just for sake of argument, I wanted to point that out to you, because that's actually a pretty cool little feature. And this does work with padded armor, by the way. I've actually tested this. This does work with plate mail, does work with all kinds of stuff. Does not work if you're wearing nothing, or wearing robes, I don't believe, either. So that's a problem. But you're probably going to wear armor anyway, because you're an armor-based class, right? Now, we could go over all these things here, and I will. I'm not going to do it in this page, because this is kind of confusing. I actually have a spreadsheet that we're going to go to. Let's look at that. So now here's our spreadsheet, and what I've done here is I'll make this available to you guys, but only after I do the next video. So this is going to be as close to brief as I can make it for you guys. A video that just talks about RangerTony's build, the types of damage that you can expect, the attack bonuses, the amount of attacks and round you can expect, things like that, ways to improve it. So that's what we're going to talk about first. And then in my subsequent video after this preface, the subsequent video will actually be comparing his build with a few of my other builds, like an Eldritch Archer, a Divine Hunter, which is a Paladin-based build, or my Eldritch Scion, which I'm actually building to be ranged, to see how close we can get to his numbers. I mean, obviously it would be better in some things, worse than others, but I want to see it on a spreadsheet so I can make that distinction. Okay? So he went with half orc. I will probably do that with my other classes as well. I really shouldn't. I really should go human, because it really does give me that extra feat. But for sake of comparing apples to apples, we'll probably do our best to keep everything the same. The thing that will not be the same will be our stats. I can't make these stats work with the build that I'm talking about, because I need charisma or I need intelligence to rock the stuff that I'm going to do. So some stuff is going to suffer, and that's where he's going to surely shine. I think that's going to be the trick here. We're assuming that all toggles are on, and those are toggles like Deadly Aim, Rapid Shot. So we will have penalties from those toggles, but we'll also gain benefits from having those toggles on. And we'll do the same in the other builds as well. But let's look at a couple things. First, let's go way over here. And I want you to see at level 20 of this build, I want you to see what the quote-unquote best armor class is for the various armors. Here's all the different types of armor you can wear, assuming that you're wearing armor, of course. So you have padded leather, studded leather, chain shirt. Those are your light armors. Hide armor, scale mail, chain mail, breastplate are medium. Banded mail, half plate, and full plate are heavy armors. You have access to every last one of those at the start of the game. There's no reason you can't. These bonuses will not be there at the beginning of the game. It's only really as you progress and you get that armor mastery and all that other stuff that these really start to unlock. But they are there. So at level 20, that's going to be where our comparison lies. You see full plate rocks it. Instead of it being a 20 for armor, which is what it should be for anyone else, assuming you have a dexterity of at least 12, and you're wearing full plate, not magically enchanted in any way, you will have a 20 armor class. Because you're a fighter and you went all the way up to, I want to say, was it 17 or some such, you get literally another +4 thanks to your high dex added to it. Now that caps out at that spot, but that's 24 instead of 20. That's a pretty good increase. Best flat-footed, now we don't get our dex bonus. Now this drops to the 19 that it really is for full plate, the 10 that everyone gets, and the 9 for the full plate armor. Notice how our touch attack is a lame 15 because we don't include our armor, but we do include our dodge and our dexterity bonuses. We did not pick dodge, which I think is a mistake, and we also don't have a high dexterity that we can use. We have a +7, so it should be 17. As you can see, it is 17 for some cases, but it's because of the full plate that it's hindering us, and this is where the problem lies for full plate. It's not that I wouldn't pick full plate. I really would. It's really great. But if you know you're coming against something that has high touch attacks, which there are in this game, and you're trying to solo or just be like the main tank with arrows, I guess, I don't know, then you probably don't want to be rocking full plate. You want to probably use something like Breastplate, which will give you a 17 with this build, or something that can go even higher, assuming we can pump our dexterity higher, which there are ways to do that. So that these other lighter armors actually do provide some benefit, but only really in the realm of touch attack. But now let's look at our runner-up. So full plate's our gold medal winner. Breastplate will be our silver star winner, and here's why. Breastplate, in this build, the way it is right now, will only be down 1 armor class when wearing the armor. Being flat-footed, being caught unawares, means that our armor sucks because we're not counting our dexterity. So 19 is definitely better for full plate, 16 is pretty bad. But, only 18, 17 above that, these ones really are bad, quite frankly. So the next best one in my category really was Breastplate. Now, obviously, the goal is not to be caught flat-footed, so just don't get caught flat-footed. It's not an answer here, but it's going to happen, and it's going to be something that you need to consider. There's ways around it and ways to prevent this damage, but that's magic and other kinds of enchantments and stuff that you'll be using as you potions and scrolls and whatnot as you lose through the game. So don't worry about this one too much, and it's only really in like the first round of combat that's a thing. At range, more likely than not, you aren't flat-footed. Hopefully you're swinging your bow off your shoulder and shooting at somebody before they even get a chance to swing at you. So I don't think you get to be flat-footed if you're always sneak attacking those guys like that. And I shouldn't say sneak attack because you're really not doing sneak attack damage, but you get the idea. Now your touch attack armor class is actually pretty darn high, one of the highest, unaltered. Notice that everybody's at 17 or lower. So this is really the best one you have in this build. These other ones, yes, they can go higher, but I will have to tell you why they go higher. They also get up to 22, which is not 23, and it certainly isn't 24, but they are respectable numbers once you get them to 22. So these aren't that bad. This is where they fall short, as you can see here. The best flat-footed armor class, but there's a way around that. And let's talk about that right now. First, if you're not using full plate or breastplate, maybe you haven't found good ones, and you don't want to use non-enchanted armor for whatever reason, it's perfectly valid. Get yourself some padded armor, plain Jane, nothing fancy padded armor, and get yourself the best bracers of armor class you can get. +8 I think is the highest you can get in this game. Why do I say use both of these? Well, let's look at what this does. Bracers replace your armor if they're better than your armor. So padded armor only gives you a +1. Bracers +2 or higher is clearly better. So obviously +8's the best. Basically, this is like saying, I'm not even wearing padded armor. And then you would say, why do we even wear it? And I'll get to that in a minute. But now you have an armor of 8. So again, you have an armor class of 10 that everyone gets. You get 8 from the bracers, that's 18. And because you're wearing padded armor, which allows you to use your full dex bonus, and this is key here, your full dex bonus can be added, and right now that's a +7. So 10 + 8 + 7. I could be rocking a 25 armor class here. That's better than my full plate. And then you could say, well, why not just use bracers and plate mail? Because plate mail is a 9. Bracers are +8. The bracers are wasted. They will not add. So literally, it's whichever is the best of the two. And then again, you go back to saying, well, why am I even wearing padded armor then if the bracers are all I need? Well, here's the problem. It's not all you need. At that one level, when you get armor mastery, you literally get that DR5, but only if you're wearing armor. I have tested this. Bracers do not count as armor in that instance, and therefore you do not get any damage reduction. Padded armor is the cheapest, lightest, easiest thing you can wear and still get your full dexterity bump, always without fail. And you don't even need those stupid ass armor feats that you're going to get from being a fighter, because padded armor always allows you to use your full dex bonus. Yes, it sucks at the beginning because you don't have bracers +8. So this is something to do later. And why do I say that this is something you would want? Well, now watch this. You see how 17 is the highest, best touch attack we have up here, right? So even with the build the way it is right now, wearing padded armor and bracers, the bracers don't count for touch attack armor class, and neither will the padded armor, but your dexterity bonus does. So your 17 is still valid here, and it's the best one that we have. Notice how it can go to 21. Well, how do we do that? And that's a good question. So now in this game, there are gear, pieces of armor and whatnot that you can wear that increase your physical or mental stats. There's two particular ones that I like that I know you can get. I don't know where they're at. I'm not going to spoil it for you too, because I wouldn't do that to you guys. It's fun to find these things. But there's a belt that will increase your physical stats. That's your strength, your dex, and your con +8. All three of them. And then there's a hat, I believe, that you can find that increases your mental stats. That's your intelligence, your wisdom, and your charisma +8. That's pretty huge. And I would probably put that on my best character, which is probably my main character, right? So if you do that for this character, look at what you just did. A +8 to dexterity, that's 8 points to dexterity. That increases your dexterity armor class by +4. So what was +7 is now a +11. And again, none of these armors will allow you, even with your awesome sauce abilities that come from being a fighter and armor training, will ever allow you to use a +11 for your armor class, except no armor or padded armor. So padded armor could be literally giving you that full +11. So let's recalculate our full armor class for that now again. We get 10 for everybody, +11 for my high-ass dexterity, so that's 21 right now. And the padded armor doesn't count because we're using bracers +8. So 21 +8. I would have an armor class on that build of 29. Way better than this. Now, yes, that doesn't count finding full plate armor +27 or some bullshit, but I don't know that's even in the game. This is the cheapest, easiest way I can think of getting your armor class to being huge, huge levels. Yes, you use an extra slot, and yes, you're wasting that slot for padded armor, which only really matters if you really think that DR5 that can't be overcome is worth having. At that point, I would say chuck the padded armor, go with some robes or something. But by and large, that bracers +8 is looking pretty darn sweet. What happens with flat-footed? Again, we lose that dexterity bump. That +11 we just scored goes in the toilet. We still get our 10, and we still get whatever our best armor is. So padded armor is 1, that's why this is 11. But bracers armor +8 is 8. So that would be an 18 now instead of 11. So still, not as good as plate mail, but a nice close contender at 18. I'd be happy with that. And then now look at what happens over here for our touch attack. That's where the 21 comes in. Again, it's counting your dexterity, not counting your armor or your bracers of armor, right? So the current build, you get a +7 for your dexterity bonus. The build of the +8 magic gear is going to put you at a 21 for your touch armor class, which is the highest one that you see in this list. That's pretty good. Is there ways to make it even higher? Sure. We did not take dodge. That'd be something that I would put in this build. We did not take armor increases, and that would be something specific to either, I'm not sure if it works for just the heavy mail, like so full plate, half plate, or banded mail gets a +1, or if you have to specifically pick the armor. If you specifically pick the armor, obviously you're going to pick full plate, because that 24 will now go to a 25. The 19 will go to a 20 for all time, and that's pretty sweet. Now, of course, we can get that higher with magic full plate plus blah, 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 but that's not the point. The point is just neutral, flat-out, non-magical gear will get you to a pretty high level. Your touch armor class is still going to suck, but you put dodge in there, that 15 goes to a 16. It's better. It's nowhere like 21 or 22, which we could get, but that's how I would build. Now let's look at the reason you're really here. Let's look at the feats and let's look at some damage, okay? So here's our feat picks. Again, level 1, point blank shot, precise shot, weapon focus, longbow, rapid shot, and on down it goes. I'll leave it here long enough for you guys to see it, so feel free to pause the video at this point and look at it. I will post this up later, but not in this video. I'll post it when I combine the two, as I mentioned before. The ones with the question marks are ones that I'm just not convinced are good picks. These Tony picked them, or I picked them and to fill in stuff that he didn't like, and then I have suggestions. And so again, armor focus, improved initiative, dodge are all good choices. Perhaps something else. Maybe you want weapon finesse so that you really can rock another weapon, God forbid, if you ever get caught in melee and you just feel like you have a really cool rapier or something. Go ahead. Bows aren't going to be the best possible choice for all weapons, but obviously a composite longbow is your bread and butter for this build. Now, this is your level 1 through 20. Here's how many attacks per round you get. Notice how, like everybody else, you only start off with 1, nothing fancy. But already at level 3, thanks to rapid shot that we will leave on at all times, you get another attack a round immediately. And that's the earliest most people will get 2 attacks a round will be 6. I can cheat that on my other builds thanks to Magus's getting that spell combat and spell strike ability. So either level 1 or level 2, I can't remember which. I can get literally 2 attacks a round, kind of. One's a spell and one's a weapon, but that still counts for me. So I'm technically ahead of the game or equal to his game as far as that's concerned. But this is pretty fast. And then 2 jumps immediately to 4, and thank you Mini Shot for that. The only thing that I would switch around here, besides one with the question marks, by the way, might be the shuffling around of where feats go. Mini Shot, for those of you that don't know, requires a BAB of 6. This is the earliest he could get it. And he is very smart for picking it at this level, because this one is amazeballs. You really want to have Mini Shot on any kind of archery build. I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to get Mini Shot on an archery build. If feats are that starved, you could probably go with not having something like Rapid Shot. Well, no, you have to have Rapid Shot to take that back. Rapid Shot is required for Mini Shot. You could probably go without getting like Cluster Shot or Greater Penetration. Where the hell's that at? Greater Penetrating Strikes could be something you could probably lose out on. But Mini Shot, that's an extra arrow, man, and it's free. You know, as long as that first arrow hits, the second arrow, which is Mini Shot, hits. And that's free damage. You gotta love that. From there, notice how we jump from 4, then we go to 5, and then we finally go to 6. Now these are misleading. We don't really get 4 attacks. What I mean is we don't get 4 attack rolls. We get 3, 4, 5. And that's because of Rapid Shot. Thank you for that. The extra 1 you're seeing is because of Mini Shot. That basically, this is how many hits per round would be a better way of saying this. Not attacks per round, but hits per round that I could expect. But it's important, so that's why I want to point that out to you. Hit points, we start out pretty low thanks to his -8 for con, or sorry, his 8 for con, which is a -1 penalty. So instead of 11, we get 10, and we only go up 6 points every round thereafter. So it's not the best. However, if you get that magic gear of awesome sauceness that I mentioned before, that includes a belt that not only increases your strength and your dex, but also your con +8. That's a +4 bonus to your hit points. +4 for 20 levels at the end, of course, would literally mean you're adding, I think, 80 more hit points if I'm doing the math right. So 124 is what he has in his build. 204 is what you could expect if you found that belt at the very end. That's real nice. That's a real tough character. From there, your attack bonus starts out at a respectable 6. And that is because you're using a bow and you're using that high dex. Now, my build would probably have less dex than he had, probably 18 or 19. And therefore, this would not be as high. Plus, my builds aren't going to start off as a fighter. A Magus build doesn't get any attack bonus at level 1. A Paladin build will. So a Paladin could probably keep toe-to-toe with him in many of these cases. They might be lagging by like 1 or 2 points. But by and large, it's going to be comparable numbers. The Magus build is definitely going to be behind. The highest that we can get as a Magus level 20 will be a 15 BAB. And then, of course, our bonuses from Dex or Strength or whatever is increasing our to-hit chance. So this 25 may not be attainable. We could probably get close with spells, of course. But I would say maybe closer to 20, 21, 22 will be what I'll be hitting. So that's not as good. And I won't get as many attacks in a round. I won't get 6, I'll get 5. The only one that'll get 6 will be, again, possibly the Paladin. I'm fairly certain he will, though. From there, what else do we have? We have this how much damage the arrow does. Literally, an unenchanted arrow, regular composite bow with the stats that we have, I'll do maximum of 12 damage. Minimum of 0. I missed, right? So I don't factor that in. But the maximum is kind of what you want to see. Notice how we jump up to 14. Do we things like weapon specialization, That gives a +2. Greater weapon specialization down here will give another +2. Deadly aim will steadily increase at +2. As we level up, you'll see not only bigger penalties, but bigger damages. So those three abilities, weapon specialization, deadly aim, and greater weapon specialization, which I think only a fighter can get this last one right here. I think only a fighter can get this one because of the requirements for it. I may be wrong on that, but that's a big oomph for putting some extra damage behind your arrow shots, right? And as you see, when you start out with doing maximum of 12, 14, then it jumps up to 19, then we're going to 21, 22, 26, 29, finally ending up at 30. Now, how can we increase this even more? And again, notice how at level 20, we got 32 to 38. 32 is what this build has. 38 is another 6 points. Where did those 6 points come from? Wasn't a magic bow. We're still using a regular composite longbow. You put that magic belt of awesome sauceness with a +8 to your strength. That's a +4 bonus. Well, +4 is not +6, Brother Mutant. You're tricking me. No, remember, the composite longbow takes your strength modifier and multiplies it by 1.5, rounding down. So another +4 times 1.5 is +6. There is no rounding down then. So that +6 is added. So 32 damage max per arrow turns into 38. Notice how we have another column here for point blank shot. Remember, point blank shot, if they're within range, you get another +1 to hit. So 6 goes to 7, 8 goes to 9. You also get another point of damage. So 25 goes to 26, 25 to 29 goes to 26 to 30. So once you get to the point where you can carefully get within range, and I would say I wouldn't even do that until you get to level 10 point blank master, where it doesn't matter. I would get as close as you can without really getting in melee range, almost guaranteeing that you're using these stats here, the point blank shot stats, over these ones. You'll still do a salvo or volley every once in a while at range, just to make sure that you're the first one off and you're not the flat-footed one in the combat. So by and large, these ones are going to be good. This will be probably how you start out the fight, and this will be what happens after they charge your ass. But once you have point blank master, you really have less to worry about than you think. From there, let's look at our max damage. Now again, we have two different levels here. An extra point per attack thanks to point blank shot. So we can ignore this one for now. Let's just focus on just the straight up regular damage. So 12 is what we're starting with. We steadily increase to 24, 38, 76, 84, 88, and then higher, higher, higher. And that all accumulates up to finally at level 20. 192 is the maximum with the current build that Tony has, to a 228, and that's if you're using that magic belt of awesome sauceness that increases your strength bump. So look at the damage that you're putting out in one combat round. Potentially, you have to hit with everything. There has to be no damage reduction causing you problems. All kinds of shit gets factored in here, but that's pretty impressive damage. And even if that's spread around over 2 or 3 targets even, that's pretty impressive damage, even for a wizard that's like slinging out fireball spells, right? Yes, they can hit with like 60 points of damage per fireball spell at max level 10d6, right, at level 10. So they can do that earlier than you can. And yeah, they can hit many guys with it, but guys can reflex save out of it. You can't reflex save out of an arrow shot, as far as I know. Yes, they can deflect arrows, but only the first one, and I'm shooting up to 6 into your chest. So you may block one, I'm going to hit you with the 4 others. It's all good. And I say 4 instead of 5, because remember, the first shot, if you miss, thanks to many shot, then the other shot misses as well. So you knock back down to 4. I'm fairly certain. So this is really nice damage. This is a really nice build. And then again, last point to point out is our fortitude, reflex, and will saves. Again, going up 4 points each because of the magic belt of awesome sauceness, increasing your con and your dex. Your magic hat of whoop ass, increasing your wisdom, so your will goes up another 4 points as well. So these would be the numbers you might expect on your build at the end when you start getting some cool stuff. And these numbers don't count magic spells, magic gear, magic anything. Same with the damage. You get that flaming long bow of awesome sauceness that's composite, and these numbers are going to change dramatically. But this is a pretty good build. Would I play it? Probably not. Why not? I like casters. That's why I like my Eldritch Scion. I like the Eldritch Archer and the other classes that I'm going to compare it to. But this will do what it's supposed to. It is a fighter. It kills things right out of the box. It's doing what it's supposed to do. This would be a build that I could totally, if I didn't have the stat spread of 20 versus 25 because of what do you call them, mercenaries that only get 20 points to buy points with instead of the 25, which this character is based off of. I would make this one of my mercs and just let him or her go to town, put him on autopilot with a nice good composite longbow, and just let them just obliterate shit for me, because they will do it. This is a really good build. I like it. I don't love it enough that I don't think I can improve on it. I'm fairly certain anyone can. I mean, I'm sure Tony's already probably thought of ways to improve on it already. Losing the feats at the end that he didn't like, you know, getting these other crit, tiring, blinding, staggering, whatever, crippling strike, and blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do different here. By and large, though, this is a pretty solid build. If you went with this build, you guys will be happy with it. You don't have to go half orc. There's nothing about half orc that made it stand out being woohoo. You could just easily go human and you get another feat besides. By and large, I would keep it to human or half orc though, because that extra skill points are nice. The extra feat for human is nice, and half orc gets like one or two other little perky perks that again don't really impact you being a bowman, but meh, a big green monstrosity shooting arrows are kind of cool looking. With that though, feel free to like, subscribe, pass this off to your friends, share if you will. Tell me what you guys think. Tell me if my math is off on stuff. I mean, I know there's not a lot that you guys can really see here on the screen. I mean, I'll go slowly so you guys can pause it and kind of get a look at the numbers. But by and large, I'm fairly certain I've tested all these, and these numbers are reasonably accurate, with the exception of these magical additions, of course. But they should work as intended. There's ways to increase all these things. I mean, blessed spells would increase your attack bonus. There's going to be other spells that clerics can do that will increase your damage output. All that stuff's going to be factored in, but that's too hard to account for. This is just your bare naked character with some random non-magical gear, so I can compare it to my next magic casting characters with non-magical gear to see how they compare from there. And again, at that point, we start assuming things like gear, like it says over here, starting race, gear, and the same for the comparison. So when I make my next characters, they will be half-orcs, even though I wouldn't do that normally, just so we can do a direct comparison to see how close I can get to Tony's build. But with that, my name is Brothermutant. Please like, subscribe, share, comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. How would you change it up? And I'll see you guys soon. Bye now.